This is me. Recently, I had a question about a controversial topic. In search of answers, I curated a civil and unassuming tweet that was sure to spark thoughtful and respectful debate. Heed my word, my children. Do not do this. It was a mistake. Nevertheless, I still find myself curious, and as the curious soul that I am, I need answers. So today's video addresses the recent hot topic: is invisibility OP? The conclusion of this video will not be one that contains my ironclad opinion on the topic. I've gained a lot of subscribers recently, and taking a definitive stance on a controversial and subjective issue is a historic top charter strategy for losing them all. More seriously though, I don't have a definitive opinion on the topic, hence my asking for your perspective. Instead, I will aim to give you all of the information and background surrounding the question and let you decide what you think about invisibility's fairness in Destiny, and I am hoping that the resulting opinions will look like something other than this. So first we will talk about the radar in Destiny 2. After that we will talk about everything that invisibility does. Next, we will dive into the top tree Nightstalker specifics, followed by the bottom tree Nightstalker specifics. To follow that, we will look at all of the exotic armor pieces that enhance these effects. Once we have all the information, I want to widen the scope and touch on the question: what makes something OP? Then finally, we can wrap it all up with a bow and figure out what is really going on here, after which every one of you watching can leave a civil, respectful, well thought out comment below regarding your thoughts on the topic. So throw those prejudgments out the door, open your mind, give a little kiss to that subscribe button, and let's get started. Arguably, the strongest tool that exists in Destiny is not any weapon, armor piece, ability, or subclass. It is, in fact, the radar. That little circle is everything. Don't believe me? Run one game of quick play with a sticky note over it and let me know how it goes. Looking at the numbers, your radar shows you enemies as far as 47 meters on the outer ring. At 23 meters, they enter the inner ring, and at 5 meters, they enter the center ring. In a game like Destiny, where whoever hits the first shot has a huge advantage, knowing where your enemy is before engaging them is half the battle. The reason that sliding and jumping into lanes is so strong is because the radar can't tell you that. All it tells you is the direction that they are coming from. So if a variance in their Y coordinate positioning messes with the engagement so much, imagine if you don't even get their X or Z. Radar is everything. So why is this video about invisibility? Well, invisibility is the one thing in Destiny that can trick the radar. Not only can you take away its information, but you can apply false information to it as well. It is this very manipulation that begs the question: is invisibility OP? Alright, invisibility. This section is going to be fun for two reasons. The first is that unless you have a ton of experience with invisibility in PvP or tested a lot of this yourself, I bet a lot of this stuff will be brand new information to you. The second reason is that in this chapter, I have a fun little game that you get to play. That sounded a little too evil. I have a fun little game that you get to play. But first things first, let's learn exactly how invisibility works in PvP. Almost all of this is focused around the radar as discussed before. When you go invisible, you remain on radar for about 2 seconds. After that 2 seconds, you do not appear on radar whatsoever until your invisibility ends, or unless you do specific modes of movement. Activating Sprint, for example, refreshes this 2-second disappearance period, meaning after 2 seconds of uninterrupted sprint, you will no longer appear on radar even if you are still sprinting. You will only reappear if you stop and reactivate it, again for 2 seconds. Your boosted jump and hunter dodge also refresh the 2-second disappearance period, and being within the inner circle of your opponent's radar, aka within 5 meters of your enemy, will have you on radar permanently. Pacing regularly does not make you reappear on radar, and your non-boosted jump also does not make you reappear on radar. Switching weapons and ADSing don't make you reappear on radar either, however, Sniper Glint still shows through invisibility. The other component of invisibility is the particle effect that it leaves on a Guardian, making them more difficult to see. And this is where our game comes in. I invite you to play my favorite game, Spot the Hunter. It's like Blue's Clues, but for adults. The game is simple. I show you a shot, and you tell me if there is a hunter in it or not. Simple enough, right? Okay. Hunter or no hunter? If you guessed no hunter, you are right. Hunter or no hunter? Okay, that was an easy one. Hunter or no hunter? Yep, getting a little sneaky. Let's try different lighting. Hunter or no hunter? If you guessed hunter, you are correct. Hunter or no hunter? There is no hunter in this show. Oh, what the fuck? With disguising visual effects and no radar appearance, the only thing you have left to detect an invisible enemy is sound. And is even that enough to be able to notice them? I don't know, you be the judge. Here is an invisible enemy walking at 3 different distances from me with the in-game SFX volume at 10. And here is an invisible enemy sprinting at 3 different distances from me under the same conditions. Looking at Top Tree Nightstalker, there are 2 primary differences that you will notice when running as or against this tree. The first of which is that your invisibility comes from your dodge, which is actually a shorter invisibility timer at 5 seconds versus the bottom tree's melee charge invisibility at 7 seconds. The obvious thing to note here is that with this tree, you can only make yourself invisible as your dodge invis has no way to apply its invisibility effects to teammates. The second key difference here is the melee charge. This melee charge remains on the field for a certain period of time and detonates either after that period of time has elapsed or when an enemy gets in range of it. The biggest standout effect of the smoke grenade is that it appears on the enemy's radar as a red ping the same way that an enemy would, meaning that you can misdirect your enemies into looking at a specific direction to fight when there is no fight to be had there at all. The bottom tree Nightstalker benefits come in the form of team-based support and cooldown refreshes. As discussed previously, the invisibility effects from the bottom tree Nightstalker come from the throwable melee charge thanks to the Vanish and Smoke perk. Thanks to this, you are not limited to strictly applying invisibility and all of its benefits to yourself. Your entire team can benefit from the effects of invisibility. The trade-off, of course, is that the invisibility comes from your Smoke Bomb, which is tied to your Strength stat, which at tier 10 Strength has a 28-second cooldown, compared to the dodge, which is tied to the mobility stat with an 18-second cooldown at tier 10 mobility. The benefit to the throwable smoke, though, as discussed before, is that you receive invisibility for 7 seconds compared to the 5-second invisibility from top trees Invis dodge. Moving on, another benefit that you receive from running bottom tree is that making yourself and teammates invisible grants 25% of your grenade energy per guardian smoked thanks to combat provision. In addition, combat provision also grants you melee energy when dealing damage with grenades. Obviously, this is all subject to change pretty significantly with Void 3.0 on the horizon, and I am sure you will be able to mix and match things between these 2 trees as well as implement new perks and abilities from aspects and fragments. But this chapter and the previous one were designed to give you an idea of everything that invisibility can do in its current state, where it is considered broken by many, regardless of which tree you are running. Overall, you can think of bottom tree Nightstalker as the support and utility invisible class, while the top tree Nightstalker is the deceptive lone wolf. So, exotic armor pieces, let's talk about them. First up is Gemini Jester, which wipes your opponent's radar for 5 seconds when you activate your dodge within 23 meters of them. This doesn't directly have anything to do with invisibility, but directly impacts the ancillary topic of this think piece, radar. This exotic works through any type of wall, structure, or geometry. If they are within 23 meters, they are losing their radar. Kefri's Sting is next up on the list, and it grants True Sight after going invisible, so when you bring Kefri's to the party, not only can your enemy not see you, but you can see exactly where your enemy is. Graviton Forfeit gives you improved invisibility, which grants increased melee regeneration, recovery, and weapon reload speed. In addition to that, it increases the duration of your invisibility. It takes your top tree dodge invisibility from 5 seconds to 7 seconds, and your bottom tree smoke invisibility from 7 seconds to 11 seconds. Finally, we have your favorite YouTuber's favorite exotic, wink, Omnioculus. This bad boy can fit so many smoke bombs in it. It also refunds 50% melee energy per teammate smoked, meaning if you smoke 2 friends, you get that smoke refunded entirely. It also grants about 25% damage resistance, which is actually enough to eat hits from certain super abilities. What this section adds to the argument is the following. If invisibility is not OP on its own, do the effects from certain exotic armor pieces push it over that curve of being too strong? Now we arrive at the question that the great philosopher Bophades pondered for decades. What makes something OP? Merriam-Webster's dictionary describes OP as... I'm just kidding. Can you imagine? That would be so lame. Typically, when people refer to something as being OP, what that usually boils down to is the following. This thing that I am fighting against does not have any reasonable counters. When we look at the OP item in question, as well as its counters, we have to ask a whole lot of questions. What does it do? How much damage does it deal? How much damage does it negate? How fast does it make you go? How much does it slow the enemy? How often is it available? What is the ease of use? The list goes on and on. Let's look at some past examples. Shatter Dive, everyone's favorite. This ability was widely considered OP. But why? Well, Exhibit A, it was an ability that only required your grenade, which is about a 30-second cooldown, that could one-shot a super ability, which has a cooldown of multiple minutes. You could then say, but Max, snipers can one-shot supers too, and you get 2 bullets for every spawn and can hit them from any distance, which is true. But that is where we pull another category into the mix of consideration, ease of use. Shatter Dive was significantly easier to use, only having to be within the general vicinity of the enemy super, while sniping the head requires extreme precision against a target that typically has increased movement capabilities from their super. Let's take a look at another one, Dead Man's Tale. It has one of the fastest firing rates in the game, incredibly high bullet magnetism from hipfire, outranges everything else, and uses primary ammo. Statistically speaking, if 2 robot guardians duke it out with primary weapons and always land all of their shots perfectly, the DMT will always win. No counters, OP. So, invisibility. What are its strengths? Takes you off the radar and gives you the element of surprise. What are the counters to that? Be more aware of your surroundings, listen to sound cues, rush the other 2 players while the third with invis is flanking. These counters sound wildly different to what we discussed previously. Typically, counters are things like use a gun that performs better in that range, or use an ability that can shut down that super, or wait until their ability is on cooldown. But with invisibility, the counters are things that are not used to counter anything else in the game. This is because the strength of invisibility shows itself in a different way. It doesn't deal a ton of damage, move incredibly quick, or have a super fast fire rate. This is not a form of combat overpoweredness that we are used to when talking about things that are OP. This is information manipulation. So how the hell do you determine whether or not something like this is OP? Historically, the radar has been a sacred constant in Destiny's lifespan. Any efforts to create modes with limited or no radar have not lasted long. It is the one thing a Destiny player can constantly rely on for information without question, and that holy doctrine is now being questioned by invisibility in PvP. It forces the question, is invisibility in PvP legitimately overpowered, or have we relied on our radars to give us perfect information for too long that it has become habit to not look somewhere unless you see a red ping in that direction, and that habit that we have developed over the last 7 years is being used against us by invisibility? Is it OP because it does something that we can't counter, or is it OP because it does something that counters us? Not us as hand cannon users, warlock players, or shotgun rushers, but us as people. People who have developed a habit that they can't put to bed for their own benefit when they match an invisibility user. Are we countering ourselves with our 7-year habits and we don't even know it? I've seen a lot of takes. Folks have said that it's too hard to see people with the particle effect. Others say that appearing off radar is simply too strong. I've heard that in isolation, both of these effects would be fine, but together they are overbearing. I've heard that the radar is too overpowered and we have been spoiled by it. I also heard a take that read, it isn't the ability itself, but the other tools players have access to. Primary weapons being off radar for bits at a time is strong, but counterable. However, when you combine invis and special weapons that can one-shot, it can become an issue. So is invisibility truly overpowered, or is its strength simply a derivative of the strength of special weapons, the strength of radar, or the strength of countering the habits we have grown over the years? I don't know. What I do know is that if Bungie does decide it is too much and that it needs nerfed, I do pray they do it in a way that does not nerf it in PvE as well. That would mean that exotic effects, cooldowns, and buff timers are off the table. To strictly nerf this in PvP, Bungie would need to take a shot at its visual effect or its radar manipulation. But should they, is the question. Let me know your take in the comments below. Make sure to like and subscribe if you enjoyed the video, and as always, have a great day. There is a new emblem releasing with Witch Queen on February 22nd that is obtainable by linking your Twitch account on Bungie.net and gifting 2 subscriptions to any Twitch streamer playing Destiny 2. If you want to obtain this emblem and support my content at the same time, you can stop by my stream at twitch.tv/Mactics anytime I'm live and gift to get the emblem. Thanks so much for supporting, and have a great day.